I will move House File 90 be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means and get the bill here in front of us. Members, this is for those of you who have been on this committee for a while. This is not the first time you've heard about this issue. We just heard from the Board of Public Defense about how it's constitutionally mandated that folks have a right to counsel and a right to effective assistance of counsel. It's well-established law here in the United States. Our criminal justice system here in the U.S. really relies on a couple of basic principles, and one of those is that you're innocent until proven guilty, and the other one is that if you're facing criminal charges, that you would be provided an attorney if you cannot afford one. We don't want justice to depend on your ability to pay. And so with that, as we just heard how important our Board of Public Defense is and our public defense system is, House File 90 is pretty straightforward. It funds that system. 2 years ago, when we started having these conversations, we finally asked the question, what would it actually take to fund this system adequately? Not what would it take for the Cadillac plan, what would it take to have the best system in the country, what would it take to be adequately meeting the needs of our citizens by making sure that those caseloads are manageable and that people have the counsel that they are entitled to under the U.S. Constitution. And that's where the numbers in House File 90 came from. This was the amount that we were told that would need to get us to that point. And so this has been a journey as we've moved this forward. We have had support, bipartisan support, bicameral support for this over the last 2 years. And given that the need is there now, we thought it was really important that we bring this forward now. And so with that, I will turn it over to my testifiers, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Becker-Finn. Your first testifier is Mr. William Ward. Please come down.
You're back.
Again, Mr. Chair, my name is William Ward. I'm the State Public Defender for Minnesota. I understand the nature of the time constraints we have here, so I'm not going to regurgitate what Mr. Cara just presented to all of you. We have another trifecta in this state. It's not just the wealth of the DFL taking control, it's the trifecta of recruiting, retention, and workloads, which are doing tremendous harm to our ability to represent our clients. The word trauma is something I don't like using when describing what's happening to my staff, but that's exactly the traumatic effect that's occurring due to the pressures of working on these cases when we don't have enough inadequate staff to do so. Our numbers are not nearly what they need to be to represent our clients in the way that all of you should demand on behalf of our citizens. We don't have that collateral. We also have a situation of recruiting and retention where people don't want to work for us right now because the pay is too low. There's no parity with the county attorney's offices throughout the state. And we represent individual clients, not entities. We have clients who come to us in tears and fear and anger because of how they're being treated in the court system, and they feel that they're getting the shaft by us because we don't have the time or the energy or the ability to do what we should be doing on their behalf. What is being requested here, we have great thanks to the board or to the chair here and to all of you for what is being presented on our behalf. We also presented a budget to the governor that we'll be having discussions about as time goes on. But I really encourage you to think about if your son or daughter or nephew or uncle or cousin were in trouble, would you want us to represent them? You should, but would you now in the state that we're in and we have been for the last 2 decades? I thank you for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. Our next testifier is Brian Aldes.
Thank you. I want to thank the chair and members of the committee for the opportunity to appear before you today on behalf of the Board of Public Defense employees represented by Teamsters Local 320. My name is Brian Aldes, and I'm the Secretary-Treasurer of Teamsters Local 320. Teamsters Local 320 represents roughly 10,000 plus public employees across the state of Minnesota. Today we're here speaking in support of the Minnesota Board of Public Defense increased budget request that's been presented to the governor. The budget requested will provide competitive compensation to the Board of Public Defense employees and provide the agency with the ability to fully staff its organization, which would make caseloads more manageable. Included in those 10,000 plus public employees represented by Teamsters Local 320, 650 of those members are attorneys, dispositional advisors, paralegals, investigators, and tech support staff that work for the Minnesota Board of Public Defense. We have been the collective bargaining agent for the public defenders and their support staff since 1999. The Board of Public Defense has historically been underfunded and unable to provide competitive compensation to its employees, attract new employees, or retain its current employees. The Board of Public Defense, well, as an example, I should say, lawyers hired, Mr. Kyer mentioned the importance of, for example, part-time public defenders. Lawyers hired as part-time public defenders are averaging 1,600 hours of work per year for the Board of Public Defense while they try to maintain their private practices. Half-time public defenders are required to provide 910 hours as an example, and three-quarter time public defenders are required to provide roughly 1,365 hours as another example. The Board of Public Defense employees represent 80 to 90% of criminal defendants in Minnesota. They continue to face extraordinary caseloads, understaffing, and insufficient resources, making it impossible for them to do their jobs to the best of their abilities. Because of that, they're increasingly concerned that by forcing them, as is required by the Constitution, into these extreme and unmanageable working conditions, they have concerns that there is the potential to violate a defendant's constitutional right. Minnesota's criminal justice system cannot meet its needed reforms until the state actively supports its essential Board of Public Defense employees with an adequate budget that provides for proper staffing, competitive pay, manageable caseloads, and critical resources. I know I'm on a short time leash here, so I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here today, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Aldes. Up next, Erik Sandvick.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Erik Sandvick, and I'm a second Judicial District Public Defender. I've worked in Ramsey County for the past 16 years as a public defender. Before that, I worked in Greater Minnesota in the 10th District and Sandvick County for 2 years before that. Throughout my career, I've represented thousands of people that have been charged with everything from low-level misdemeanors to the most serious homicides and criminal sexual conduct cases. Currently, I'm in the juvenile division in Ramsey County representing children as young as 10 or 11 years old, charged both with delinquencies and also representing them in certain child protection cases. We represent about 85% of all the people that have been charged with felonies in Minnesota as an agency, and nearly all the children charged with delinquencies in juvenile court. In the 60 years since Gideon versus Wainwright, the Supreme Court decision in 1963 that said that indigent folks charged with a crime are required to have a lawyer appointed at government expense. The work of public defenders has expanded exponentially, both in caseload and the complexity of the cases that we handle. When I started 18 years ago, we still got our reports on cassette tape. Now you can't find a cassette tape player probably anywhere. The work now includes sorting through hundreds of hours of body-worn camera footage from arrests, custodial interviews, and everything else that is on video. I can think of a case and a client that I represented last summer. He was a juvenile child who was charged with a crime. He was in custody, which means he had to have his trial within 30 days of being arrested. There were probably 8 or 10 police officers who responded. There was surveillance video from part of the incident where my client was said to be getting out of a certain type of car near a store. Upon further review of the tape, and after having time to build a relationship with my client and develop trust with my client, which has to happen very fast in a juvenile case on that type of timeline, he was able to admit to me that he was not the person driving the car, and we had the time to be able to sort through the video, and that video evidence actually backed up his story. We were able to resolve this case, and my client pled guilty to what he was actually responsible for during that day. He was put on probation, received services, and I can report that 7 months later, He's not violated his probation once. He's completed most of his programming already, has a mentor, and is back in school again. Having enough time to do this, having the investigators, support staff, to help with all the behind-the-scenes work that has grown exponentially over this time, allows good outcomes like this to happen. And I'd argue it helps increase public safety in our communities as well. We talked a lot about backlog. There's a 1,000-case backlog right now in Ramsey County. I talked with Ms. Thompson-Carter and other people from our office that's sitting at about 1,000 cases, and that's only the felonies and the gross misdemeanor cases that are backlogged. And new cases come in every day. Certainly, our agency has lost people over the last 5 years. I was looking at a phone list from 2017. About half the people on that phone list no longer work here. And the people that leave our agency, they talk about a couple different things. They talk about the crushing caseload and the emotional and physical toll they take and the low pay. In our office, the Attorney General's office is one floor below ours. An attorney that's worked in our office shouldn't be able to ride the elevator down one floor and get a $20,000 raise by switching jobs. That isn't fair. We need to be paid the same, not thousands of dollars less, to do our constitutionally mandated jobs. I'll close with just a brief story. It goes back to 1987. I was a ninth grader at Eden Prairie High School. My teacher, Steve Swedzinski, you might know him as Senator Steve Swedzinski from the West Metro right now, used an example to talk about the checks and balances of government. Used an analogy of a three-legged stool. Each leg is the branch of government, the executive, judicial, and legislative branch. If one leg or branch is too short, the system is out of balance, and it isn't fair. In our work, the executive branch is represented by the police, county attorneys. The courts are representing the judicial leg, and the public defenders represent the people, or the legislative branch. We're not fully funded, meaning if we don't have enough money to fully fund the agency, to hire enough lawyers, support personnel, pay them a salary equal to what others in the system make, the stool in our system of justice is out of balance. I ask you to fully fund our agency in this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sandvick. Next up is Cara Gilbert.
Good morning, Mr. Chairperson, members of the committee. My name is Cara Gilbert. My pronouns are she, her. I'm an assistant public defender in the 2nd Judicial District. I was a special education teacher for 20 years before I went to law school. I've been a public defender for almost 9 years. Please don't do the math on that. My caseload involves juvenile cases and adult homicides. I am assigned every case that comes through on the calendars in which I am picking up. I do not get to pick and choose. I do not get to have an opinion about what my children did or what their personalities are like or who their families are. I represent every one of those children and adults to the best of my ability. But this work takes an enormous toll on all of us who do it. Body camera and squad video have exponentially increased in just the time that I have been a public defender. A simple traffic stop, 3 or 4 hours of video to review. A serious felony, hundreds, if not thousands of hours. I have had cases with thousands of hours of video. And what is buried in that video is what really happened. And if I don't review all of that video, I don't know what was said on scene. I don't know which car the person got out of. I don't know who threw the first punch. I cannot tell you the number of cases in which what was in the video was either entirely exonerating or at least mitigating enough for my client that the outcome was nothing like what was originally charged in court. And that is the crux of what we provide. When we do our jobs well, our clients admit what they need to admit, they take responsibility for what they need to take responsibility for, or the court finds them responsible, one or the other, and then we move on to the most important part: treatment, programming, supervision, and change. We can't make change if people don't feel heard. We can't make change if a system is shoehorning people in for things they did not do and increasing resentment rather than helping people take real accountability for what happened. But this work takes a toll. I have a very, very good friend who just left our office. She found a place to do work with the same clients in a different kind of office, not a public defender's office, and got a 25% pay increase. And I don't blame her at all for taking it. I have a colleague who qualifies for and lives in subsidized housing. I have many, many colleagues who either do not replace or repair cars that desperately need it because they can't afford to. None of us expect to get rich doing this. We didn't go into it to get rich. But an incoming prosecutor in Ramsey County with no experience makes more than I do. How is that valuing the rights of Minnesotans? It's not. We all handle caseloads far in excess of what the national standards would say. We are forced to prioritize which video gets watched, which clients get our time and energy, and clients are forced to wait for us to get to them. I represent children, almost exclusively children of color from the poorest neighborhoods in St. Paul. My children have faced incredible trauma in their young lives. I have rarely had a child who hasn't lost a friend or a family member to violence. They have experienced homelessness, domestic violence, and treatment that would horrify us if our own children were treated that way. I am more than a lawyer to them. Sometimes I am the first person that they have trusted enough to tell the whole story. I need time to build that trust, to help them understand who they are and what they need to change. And if I can do that, one child at a time, we can make a real difference in what our children are doing every day. But it takes time, and it takes years to build the skills to do this work well. And if our lawyers don't stay more than 5 years, we don't have the capacity and the trained lawyers to do what we need to do. We need more lawyers, more dispositional advisors, more investigators, more paralegals, and more legal office assistants. Our clients deserve good representation. Our city and our state benefit from that every bit as much as our clients do. The streets are safer when we meet our clients' needs because they are much less likely to reoffend. Policing is safer when we're able to watch every single video and give every case the attention it deserves because nobody watches more than we do. We can and we should do better. Minnesota is better than this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gilbert. I see that we do have one public testifier signed up. RaeAnna Buchholz. Did I get that right? Or close?
You did. I'm very impressed. Thank you.
You're welcome. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is RaeAnna K. Buchholz, and I am the Legislative and Coalitions Director for Americans for Prosperity here in Minnesota. AFP advocates for a society of equality where constitutional rights are upheld for every citizen. I am here to testify in support of House File 90, the funding allocated for the Board of Defense. While we are generally hesitant to support drastic increases in funding to government programs, we believe in this particular case that it is necessary to ensure that the rights of the criminally accused are upheld, that individuals facing charges have adequate time with their public defender, and that public defenders have sufficient time to assess and execute cases in the best interest of their clients. Prosecutors themselves have also supported increased funding because it helps achieve justice and process cases more effectively. The Board of Defense is and has been chronically underfunded, overworking public defenders and staff. This leads to individuals who are facing criminal charges to receive inadequate representation and attention by their assigned attorney, contrary to their constitutional rights. Public defenders, as we've heard, are leaving the profession in record numbers, in addition to the issue of a starting salary deficit between public defenders and prosecutors that we at AFP would like to see equalized. Public defenders play a vital role in executing the due process for the rights of the criminally accused as constitutionally mandated. We believe that justice should be upheld across the board regardless of income. Crime should not be punished because of an individual's economic status, nor should it be the penalty of an underfunded institution. Thank you.
Thank you. There are no other public testifiers signed up, but I will ask if there are any other public testimony that would like to come down, testify. If you please introduce yourself for the record.
Attorney Erik. I've been practicing for 30 years, and I just wanted to mention with respect to the child protection service cases, over the last year since the new law was passed providing legal assistance, the low-income parents I've talked about are not satisfied with the level of legal services. They need more. These are cases involving their families being separated, and they need more legal defense help from the public defenders. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll now move on to member questions. Representative Feist.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that I strongly support this bill. Public defenders are heroes. They don't just represent their clients, they also represent our adversarial system of criminal justice. When they're able to do their job effectively, the entire system is more just and more effective. So I'm very excited to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Feist. Representative Moeller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Chair Becker-Finn, for bringing this bill. You and I were a prosecutor, and I'm a prosecutor, and I just want to say how important it is to fully fund our public defense system. Although I sit across the aisle often from the public defenders on the cases I work against, I have nothing but the utmost respect for the work they do. And I just wanted to reiterate the amount of camera footage that's coming in these cases is quite extensive. And then finally, just wanted to say that when I talk in the Public Safety Committee about how important it is for trust in our system, having trust in the system also includes making sure that our constitutional services of public defenders are fully funded. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative Moeller. Representative Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to be on the record as supporting this. This is long overdue, and this is a constitutionally mandated issue that we should, for the reasons stated by so many, fund. We can't afford to have people go without representation. We already have a backlog in the courts, and if we can get more people that are up, being prosecutors and public defenders, then hopefully that will help with the backlog as well. But it's a constitutionally mandated issue, and we need to fund it.
Thank you, Representative Scott. Representative Becker-Finn, I don't think I said this at the beginning, but you would like this bill referred to Ways and Means Committee?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was my motion, and if it's okay with you, I'll just go ahead with my closing.
Yes.
So thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to our testifiers. And again, thank you for the support from, near unanimous support over the last couple of years. And I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time to testify. And just, to reiterate, we are talking about whether somebody's personal liberty is going to be withheld when we're talking about a criminal case. And ultimately, that's a right. That this right to counsel when you're faced with that in front of you is something that we should all support. And I just really appreciate everyone here. Again, this bill is not the Cadillac plan. This is right now we've, the way that the system's been limping along right now, it's sort of like we're hitching rides, we're taking the bus, we're maybe riding our bikes, and we're just trying to get us to a functional vehicle so that we can meet those minimum caseload standards for folks across the board. So would renew my motion that House File 90 be recommended to be referred to the Committee on Ways and Means.
With the motion for House File 90 to be recommended to the Committee of Ways and Means, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion passes. It will be referred to Ways and Means Committee. Thank you.